2010 requests an update by the Finance Department regarding expenses related to the activity on Mauna Kea from Councilmember Matt Connolly Kleinfelder, dated October 15, 2019.
Afternoon.
Yeah.
You can come up too if you want. I had questions for you.
I wasn't sure if she was on the agenda or not.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it, both of you. Okay, so I watched the last meeting and just kind of caught myself up on where we are, where we have been, and questions that I've asked before. We'll just jump right in so I don't waste any time. For the interdepartmental agreement between the two chiefs, I spoke to Joe Kamelamela last week. And questions are, I'm looking for the council opinion on that, on whether or not two chiefs can sign into that agreement without council oversight or corp council oversight or mayoral oversight. And I am wondering if we found out if it was paid or not by the AG office, and whether or not that was an okay move to do. So this may be a question for Joe. This may be a question for Chief. I'm not sure, but
I was just going to answer the part that we did not directly pay County of Maui. I believe they submitted all of their costs to the AG's office.
Okay. So the agreement that we had that was signed between the two chiefs, between yourself and Maui County.
Yeah, Paul Ferrer, Police Chief. Yes, there's a normal agreement that we go into to satisfy the requirements of 52D and I believe 72 of those HRS. It's not so much an agreement to reimburse the counties for the expenditures, but an agreement to go into allowing them to send personnel to the Hawaii County and under my authority to give them police powers, to exercise police powers in Hawaii County because they have no jurisdiction here, same as I have no jurisdiction on the neighbor islands. So anytime we go into these agreements, and it's a common agreement that we go into, we've been going into it for years. If you go back, way back when, to when, I think everybody remembers Green Harvest. That was one of the most used times when these agreements were used. We would agree to the county stating that we would recover whatever costs they have outside of salaries and wages, because under the HRS we cannot pay for salaries and wages, direct salaries and wages. Anything with overtime, things of that nature, we can. Whatever equipment they need, if we have to buy any equipment for them, we would. But again, it's a normal agreement that we go into chief to chief without council oversight or without mayoral oversight. It's not so much to do with finances, it's more to do with the operational aspect of it. As far as the reimbursements to Maui County and Honolulu County, City and County, they were both sitting at the table with the Attorney General's office, all with the understanding with us that the Attorney General's was recovering their costs.
We had a document come from Maui County with your signature and the chief's signature stating that Maui County would be reimbursed by Hawaii County. And there was a point in which the Attorney General's office stated that we would be running point and that we'd also be reimbursing the other counties as well. And then there was a shift at somewhere down the line. My concern is that that agreement was signed by you both, and there was a line on the bottom for the Maui Corporation Council to sign, except there was no signature. We were wondering if there had to be mayoral oversight on that agreement or not, and that's why I reached out to Joe. Hey, Joe.
Good afternoon, Joe Kamelamela, Corp Council. Welcome, Chair and members of the County Council. Anyway, I had an opportunity to read the statute that has been referred to. The way that the statute is written, it doesn't kind of provide an outline as to specifically what has to be in the agreement, because when I first saw the agreement, I was wondering, one, whether that statute really addresses the formality of the contract, and then two, well, actually, I had three questions. The second question was, whether there was a need in certain kind of agreements with the police to actually have us sign, because I know that there's situations, for example, sometimes they bring undercover officers, and so there's a need for secrecy, and also there's a need to get things done quickly. So So if we have more eyes looking at those kind of agreement, like the mayor and finance director, that could hamper the investigation. The third question I had with respect to this agreement between Maui and our county is, whether it's moot because we have a situation, and which has just been clarified, that that it was the AGs that had reimbursed both Maui and Honolulu for the cost. So yes, there's the agreement, but I can't see that there's any violation under the statute, nor under our charter. And I'm talking about Section 13-13. So that is with respect to just the question on the agreement that was presented to us. Was it last month? Yeah. Anyway, so
I think what I'm getting at is moot point or not, because it was reimbursed by another party, is there still was an agreement, and usually there's an oversight there, but there was no oversight here. That's what I'm getting at.
yeah. So what I can do is kind of look at it, to see if I can talk to the police chief later to kind of see if there's something to really do a little bit different.
Or I guess I'm just wondering, is it required?
I don't think so, given all of the information that I've seen so far, and the research that I've done, because I actually looked at HRS, and then I was also thinking of other scenarios where I wouldn't want to see certain agreements until later.
Okay. In this case, this wasn't a secret. There was no secret about transferring police. I mean, it was on Facebook. People knew the vans were going back and forth, and we knew where the people were headed. And so I don't think there's a secrecy involved there. If there was, it wasn't very secret.
Yeah, but I think the point in time in which the agreement was made, but I didn't see the time, was prior to the emergency proclamation being done.
It was actually the agreement was signed the day before the proclamation.
Yeah.
So it doesn't put it into the emergency proclamation time zone, so it's not free and clear. Go ahead, do whatever you want.
Yeah, but I think the focus is, whether, if you look at the statute, whether this particular agreement, violated anything, and then I really don't see anything with respect to this agreement.
Between the county of Hawaii and the state, where is the agreement? I can see there's a
Yeah,
looks
good
like
question.
Police has billed through the end of August for 3.7 million. But again, October 1st, we talked about it. It was a week away. Fire department has been reimbursed already. But for
Okay,
some reason,
so-
the state has yet to be able to fulfill an agreement between the county and itself, despite all its power of law and its attorneys at hand.
And it took some time for our office to kind of work with the police department and also with the AGs. I had opportunities to actually review a couple of versions of the agreement, and then I did have some questions, on it. So I'm trying to think. So we had signed off on a final agreement. I think it went to the AGs already, who should have signed off, hopefully by this week. I also know that, okay, so they did sign off. I wasn't too sure whether they had signed off, so the police had also invoiced the AGs too. So we're gonna be expecting the money. I don't know when, but
Last communication with the Attorney General's office yesterday was 2 weeks.
2 weeks until we get payment.
Yes.
Okay, so everyone signed off at this point?
Yes.
So we started July 16th, November. For almost 3.5 months it took them to finalize an agreement
Well,
to
it's,
reimburse us for the majority
Yeah.
of our costs.
well, I mean, it's not only them, but it's us looking at everything. And like I said, I did have some questions. The second in command at the AGs had responded to questions I had about, was maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. And then once she had kind of responded to questions, then I said, okay. Yeah, then I said we should sign it. And then it got routed around to the different county departments last week.
When we receive this agreement, is it adopted by resolution?
Well, we have to do the resolution. So the plan is to do the resolution and also do the ordinance to accept the revenues and put it into the budget.
It's police and fire only.
So we're on the hook for another almost $200,000.
I believe so, yes.
Well, that's nice of the state. Mahalo for that. Okay. Do we take into account retirement and the high three for the long-term costs that we'll be incurring as a county?
We do
Does the
take into
state-
account the retirement and the benefits.
We do or we don't?
We do.
We do.
We take into account all the fringes. At the current rate we're paying.
So we had a testifier, I think his last name, Akiona, I think his last name. Yeah, he said, I'm all for our guys in blue making money and making a good paycheck, but as a county, we are going to be incurring a cost for a long time for some of the guys retiring in the next year to 3 years. So just as a thought, I'm wondering if that was taken into account and if we are going to be asking for a reimbursement for that as well from the state.
So for right now, we have asked for the current amount we're paying to ERS. And these events happen throughout the course of any officer's career, whether it's emergency, disaster, lava, lane, other things, where our firefighters and police officers work overtime. So there's not a good way, even when we ask for reimbursement from FEMA, to calculate that because we don't get the bill till afterwards, and it's based on an actuarial study.
That's hard. So it puts our county kind of in a hard spot for years, actually. Okay. And then whose decision was it to actually incur all this obligation, financial obligation? Who was that person who signed off on all this? Was that just right to the mayor? Is it each department?
I believe the AG's office asked both fire and police to be there, and they offered to reimburse, so that was set up front.
And who's a sign off for that? Who's the ultimate check and balance?
Well, ultimately, the agreement was signed by the mayor, but at that time, I'm not sure who was all on the negotiations.
Okay.
Chief, have we reduced the number of officers on the Mauna from October 1st to November 1st?
Yes.
And I'm asking that question because at our last report, October 1st, we were at 4.4 million. And today we're at 4.89, so 4.9. So that's $500,000 increase, just the month. I'm trying to capture it in. How did we do that? Is it because we reduced the number of
We scaled back the numbers considerably from the July event as we saw fit to bring down our numbers as well.
Because there's been a lot of concern that so much of the manpower was being taken up the hill, and a lot of our local communities, and Mr. Kaniali'i Kleinfelder has been very bold about there's not enough officers in Puna. And so have they been returned back to the district
They've been
assignment?
returned back to the district, and the number of officers that are patrolling the beats are the same as we were before the protests, all through the protests.
So we never saw a decrease in
In the
service?
patrol staff, no. In other areas of the department, the specialized units, our criminal investigation section, our vice sections, our traffic enforcement unit, those areas.
So as we moved staff around, Deanna, did we capture that? Because I'm assuming as manpower went up the hill, that we were seeing more overtime and or adjustments with holdovers, chief, right? Early ins and holdovers. Did we account for that in
We
our
did.
reimbursement? And so that's all captured here in this spreadsheet.
That's my understanding, yes.